Right, so I won't really tell you anything new. This is more of a sort of repetition as to what we've been trying to tell you throughout the day. I'll start the talk by sort of putting this slide up with top 3 tips. This is from our experience, working on a trial in the last few months, myself and Nuru, basically doing day-to-day things. It's just very, very, very simple. Tip number 1, take those 10-15 minutes prior to the study visit to get everything ready. It will save you so much hassle and time later on down the line. So make sure you've got everything ready. All the paperwork, the samples, the questionnaires, basically just gather everything together. It takes literally 10 minutes. Try and sort of fill the CRFs throughout during that visit and shortly afterwards. Again, it is time well used, and it will save you loads of time if you have to come back to it and deal with queries, or you have to fill the paperwork later on. And tip number 3, do communicate well within your team. That's vital. Obviously, make sure that everybody's aware of what's going on, what's happening, what date, how far have the investigation been booked, etc. So please make sure everyone is sort of kept up to date, but also communicate with the trial team. If you are not clear about some things, it's worth mentioning this well before the study visit and not like half an hour before the actual visit. We found this very useful. This is in the trial protocol, but also in the trial manual. It is basically a half a page of a table that is worth having it handy when you are with the patient or when you're actually gathering the data. It just basically breaks all the things you need to do throughout that visit for that particular time point. Again, you don't have to, but we do find it very useful. And here we are again. Francis showing you this slide. I won't go through by each point, but worth mentioning that those CRFs have loads and loads of boxes. Try and fill those boxes. Don't leave them either unticked or without anything, like no number. I have learned from it. I have it's easily to overlook because if you have 3 boxes and you only have to enter 1 digit, then you just presume that that's fine. But actually, you have to fill in zeros prior to that number. Otherwise, if you leave them empty, it will come as a data query. If you have no information available or you don't know, please do write some of those options, not no, not applicable, or not done. Again, it's a data query that will come and haunt you later on. I won't really go through in many details, but it's very important to just briefly having a little look prior to the visit to see what you actually have to do. We have a bit of a system where myself and Nuru very briefly go through the CRS that we have to fill in, so we have kind of in our heads, we know what to do and what kind of follows. So it makes life much easier. Do have the questionnaires ready to go. It is a bit of a hassle to have to email or to post the questionnaires to the patients. So do have them ready and ask the patient to do it while they're there. So samples, again, I won't really go through it, but it's worth mentioning that it's good to have those blood bottles and everything again, gathered beforehand, making sure that the expiry date on those tubes are within the date. Obviously, they're not expired, because it's very easy to think that, yes, you've got everything ready and come to that visit and you have, oh, the tube has expired. Obviously, it's too late. And some of those samples are actually very vital. You can't call the patient again. You do, but it takes lots of time, but also inconvenience for the patient and for yourself. So do obviously save some time by having this checked. If you do run out of any of these samples, do get in touch with the central trial team, and they will send you some supplies. Again, this is pretty standard. It's worth mentioning that from baseline onwards, you do have to keep an eye on the adverse event CRF and the concomitant medication, which is sometimes that easily presumed that you don't have to do it. But it's something very important that it does come apparent in the source data. If you do enter some sort of adverse event, but you haven't actually filled in the CRF, it does create quite a bit of troubles later on from the monitoring point of view. Standard blood samples. Again, I'll just go quickly through those without really explain. Week 16, so the MRE has to be performed prior to the screening visit, but obviously the result we won't be ready so that it will take a bit of a time for the result to come through. But
sorry,
in week...
Biljana, the MRI does not have to be performed prior to the screening visit. That's an important point. It doesn't have to be performed.
Sorry. Okay, so... but the data... but the data has to be... from the result from that has to be entered, yes. Thank you.
That's right. Sorry to interrupt.
And before you know it, you come to the end of the study visit, week 48. Again, very standard set of patient data to collect. Do bear in mind that you have to have the colonoscopy results and the MRE results within those time limits, so 4 weeks or 6 weeks after your week 48 visit. Series of results of blood samples. Francis did touch a little bit on this, that obviously we do expect prompt returning of the CRF's data, and that has to be to this email address. Somewhere along the line there will be either sort of a remote monitoring or on-site monitoring. So it does save a fair bit of trouble and time when it comes to this monitoring, and those are the common findings. So do please sort of bear in mind that it is something that people just presume that it has to be, that it's been done, but actually it doesn't get done. So do go through your eligibility criteria quite religiously, and do sort of also make sure that's all documented. And also do please make sure that, that the outcome, if the patient is eligible or not, is clearly noted. Again, here in Cambridge, we are actually quite lucky because we have an electronic patient system. So for us, it's quite sort of easier in a way to kind of make a little bit of a template and kind of use that template. I think Nuru will probably agree with me. We always have sort of some sort of template that we use for those things. But if you are still using a paper record, then do make sure you write this clearly. Again, part two of those things that you have to consider. Again, filing. Filing is something that we all do badly, or I do badly. And it's something that we never really get a chance to do it, but please try and do it at the time. Again, something that is worth mentioning, please use file notes only if you need to. Only if that file note is going to be useful. Don't just use a file note for everything and anything because it's just not useful. Emails, again, we are all very quick to print a chain of emails and 10, 15 pages, but do please sort of make sure that what you're actually trying to achieve, that the topic that we are trying to explain or clarify in that is actually follow through in that chain, rather than just people tend to kind of wander off and start introducing different things into the chain of email, and then you end up sort of 3 things going in the same way. So please do file only the emails and the chains that are referred to that particular topic that you're trying to provide some more clarification. Again, do file some emails. If you think that would be useful, do file them. And that's it. Any questions?
Okay, thanks, Biljana.